Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Mid-Ohio for the fourth round of the Speed GT Championships. I'm Greg Kramer, joined by Derek Daly. Andrew Marriott will be down in pit lane. Big development here. Audi has brought in a third car, and the pilot is a young driver, an American with lots of open-wheel experience in Europe, but this is his first real experience with sedans. Of course, he's got Michael Galati and Derek Bell as teammates, and earlier young Joel Nelson told us about his experience and the learning curve.
Well, it's been an experience to say the least. Obviously, I've only done open wheel cars until now, and these are just completely different. So there's been no better person to learn from how to drive a saloon car than Mike and Derek, and they've been absolutely brilliant, sharing information and really made me feel like part of the team.
Be interesting to watch his development here. Meanwhile, let's take a look at the top 5 in the championship points for drivers at this stage. Petey Cunningham only 3 in front of Galati, only 7 in front of McMillan. Farmer close, Johannes van Overbeek very close as well. Now we are approaching about the midpoint in the season here, so we wondered what effect now would the remaining half of the season have on driver strategies. Well, we checked in earlier with some of the players.
It's virtually a tie right now, and there's plenty of other guys that are in this thing, so each week you just have to do what you can.
Well, it's wide open. I mean, really, it is a mindset is try to be very competitive this weekend. During practice, we're a little bit quicker than everybody else, but I know this track very well.
We've already shifted maybe to slightly more conservative racing strategy. Not a lot, though. It's still too early for that, but we want to be there and keep pounding on the points and try to stay on the podium all year.
Well, McMillan knows conservative. Remember, he won his championship a couple of years ago without ever getting a win, but always finishing. Now he's got to beat this track, though.
Exactly. One of the favorites of the season is Mid-Ohio. Turn 1, very fast, somewhat difficult. Turn 2 comes down to a funnel, easy to get yourself caught in an accident there. The S has got the elevation changes. You've got to have a rhythm here to be fast, and you do need some horsepower.
Let's check in with Andrew Marriott with our pole sitter at the front of the grid. Andrew?
Well, on pole position, a very familiar face, of course, the reigning champion, Michael Galati. Michael, Mid-Ohio, a very big challenge. Can you keep these Porsches behind you?
Well, it's going to be tough. The Audi, champion Audi, runs beautiful through qualifying and show it. We got to see if we can keep the tire underneath this car, because this track is very technical. There is a lot of ups and downs. The weight is going to be a factor. So, but we're going to give a good run.
Best of luck.
And Michael mentioned that he's got a lot of experience here. Well, he put it to use to get the pole. Remember, he's won a number of national amateur championships here as well. He's on the front row with Van Overbeek. Randy Popes, who also has a lot of national championships here, fills out that second row with McMillan, then Cunningham and Derek Bell. Then in our fourth row, it's John Young, that very powerful Celine Mustang, and Justin Marks in the Porsche. Row 5, David Farmer, big winner at MOSPORT, quiet since then, and Phil McClure. Row number 6, Mike Culver, and the young rookie Joel Nelson coming on. Row 7, Greg MERRIL and Bob Miller, Porsches both. In the 8th row, Jeff Altenberg back in the BMW, and Brad Flowers in another Porsche. In the 9th row, Michael Levitas and Tim Wiens, again both in Porsches. And we round out the top 20. Freddie Baker, a lot of experience at this track, and Walter Swick. Now, let's get back down to Andrew Marriott, who's with our second qualifier.
Well, just 2 minutes to go now down here. Johannes, great to be on the front row. Now, you've got a bit of reputation for not being the best starter. What can you do this time?
Well, thanks for reminding me, but I think we've got those troubles behind us. And see what Galati's got. Randy's going to be a threat, PD, my teammate Justin. So we just have to give it hell for 50 minutes and see what happens.
Thanks, have a great run.
Thank you.
Andrew Marriott with the tough questions down on the grid. It's going to be great. And Randy Popes, as I said, a lot of experience here with national championship runoffs action. He and Galati have battled each other before.
The Speed World Challenge is brought to you by Audi. In technology, performance, and design, our goal remains constant. Never follow. And by Toyo Tires, known for performance. Tires that fit you.
Welcome back to Mid-Ohio. Big crowd on hand. And Andrew Marriott, we understand there's been some last-minute developments with a couple of our qualifiers. What's going on?
Well, in motor racing, you have to be in the right place at the right time, and 2 cars failed to make the pre-grid at the required moment of time. So number 13, MERRIL, and indeed Bob Miller in the Rogaine car, they're going to start here from pit lane, and that means they've got a lot of work to do.
Well, that's a bad development. Obviously qualified 13th and 14th respectively, and they now go to the back of a very competitive field, which has now completed its installation lap and is going to be taking up their positions and ready to go for the standing start. And these are phenomenal. Let's go now for a quick look through our onboard cameras. We start with Derek Bell, hoping to be hearing a bit from him as this race unfolds, certainly. Driving the Audi, Justin Marks, who has been coming along in terms of speed, teammate to Johannes van Overbeek. Watch for him here. Then we're going to be riding on board for a bit with P.D. Cunningham and the Acura. Now you notice that plus 60 on the windshield right above his name, that's the rewards weight. Jeff McMillan, the BMW, 40 extra pounds of weight from that rewards program, has taken a bit of its toll. David Farmer we will be riding on board with as well. And here's Mark Anderson, and that's the Porsche 928. You see 928 International there. And then Greg Merrill, who you see now parked in pit lane, and we suspect right behind him should be Bob Miller. There he is. It's Merrill right in front, and they are all going to be starting with our onboards of these two from the pit lane. And we are just waiting for the start at this moment. And remember the launch. There's the green flag, Derek, and watch for Galati and the explosion.
Watch for Johannes van Overbeek, because he was not impressed with that question from our Andrew Marriott. So let's see how he does at the start here.
There's the launch, and Van Overbeek did a nice job. Bell again explodes to the inside. Galati got a good launch. Somebody very slow away. That was number 14, Mike Culver, very slow. Meanwhile, on board Derek Bell. He is tucked right in behind McMillan as we head up now into the keyhole. But look at the margin that Galati has already opened up over Van Overbeek.
Wow, we've seen it so many times. Galati, when he drops the clutch with the right revs, this Audi just leaps away from the line. So Johannes van Overbeek had nothing to do except make a good start, which he did do. And meanwhile, as D. Bell, side by side he is with P.D. Cunningham.
And right behind them is the Celine of Young on board with Bell. This is the end of that long back straight. Now the climb up in the S's. Ooh, bit of a wiggle there from P.D. and Bell. Look at the launch. Up and over the top of the S's, tucked in right behind. He sits 6th, PD is 5th. In front of him is McMillan and a couple of vets. McClure and Farmer side by side. A little bit further back, right behind Justin Marks. Looks like Farmer's going to win that one, but McClure stays tough. This is the battle for 9th, forces Farmer wide, side by side through 3, 4 corners. It finally goes to McClure.
What a great racetrack here. That's turn 11. They come over the top of the right-hander here, down through the rhythm section. This is a left-hander. You got to drift sideways. You drift, then you brake and you drift again to the last double right-hander onto this front straight. Just a great racing circuit here at Mid-Ohio.
Behind them was Nelson. Meanwhile, up front, Galati leads it. There again, the dust that the chalk that they used actually to mark the starting boxes on board with Marks. He's right by. Oh, his drinks bottle has come loose, and you can see it. He hit the brakes and it dumped fluid all over. If that gets down on the other side to the left on the pedals, that could be very, very bad indeed. Meanwhile, Mark's thinking about a move on Young into the keyhole, not going to be able to get it done.
Following one of your favorite cars, Greg, I know, the Celine Mustang, John Young. A lot expected from him. Very powerful motor car.
Car also makes, with the bodywork, tremendous downforce. This track's such a momentum track, though, that the horsepower not necessarily quite as important. Meanwhile, ooh, look at Marks, closes up again. They both close up a little bit on Bell, who's now lost just a little bit of touch with P.D. Cunningham. Derek, a very different line. The exit of turn 7 into the S's.
Look at John Young again trying to hold off Justin Marks. Oh, he hits him.
Farmer into McClure. Nelson slides by, and McClure around, Derek. Oh, very close there as well.
Wow, down the hill, you can see so he's got damage. Look at the vibration on the bodywork on Farmer, so he's obviously broken a wheel also, probably that left front.
Oh, he's
all over the place. He is. David Farmer was on the outside on the run down that hill the lap earlier, but he puts himself down the inside earlier. Oh, Bob Miller takes avoiding action. Didn't realize how slow McClure was running at that stage.
Yeah, McClure's in trouble as well.
Because he has to get across the road now. He has to cross the racetrack.
And his rear tire is messed up. It's certainly flat, if not even broken suspension. Let's go back there and see. There's another look at it.
Oh yeah, down the hill. Down the hill. Farmer tries to squeeze down the inside. And you know what? I don't think there was room.
I wonder if it wasn't the secondary contact and it's the right rear on Farmer's car as well that's problematic.
Yeah, that was a banzai kamikaze move down the inside, and Farmer really had no hope to pull that off. Phil McClure did not anticipate him doing anything like that, and 2 Corvettes are in the pits as a result.
Meanwhile, up front, Galati leads it, but look at the pressure Randy Popes in that yellow, white, and blue Porsche is heaping on Van Overbeek's blue and silver machine here. Popes wants to go up and run his old and race his old nemesis, Michael Galati. Remember now, Popes, big move! And that comes from track knowledge, but look at Van Overbeek fend him off. He refused to give it to him easily, and Van Overbeek eases back in front.
$150,000 racing cars here side by side. You don't want to bash these off each other, but Randy Post already has damage on the front of that car. Don't know when that happened. Must have been in the early laps. But that was very, very good stuff with Van Overbeek to stick with the line he had chosen, and for those 2 cars not to hit each other.
Well, and just that little bit of battling between those 2 cars has allowed Galati to open up a fairly nice lead. We'll be back at Mid-Ohio. We are back at Mid-Ohio. Galati still leads over Van Overbeek and Popes. Actually, a little margin there. There's McMillan and Cunningham. There's Bell. There's Young and Marks. This is the battle for 7th right now. We go on board with Justin Marks. And I'll tell you, under braking once again, closes up on the back of that Celine Mustang. But I'll tell you, they get on the straights, Derek, and that Mustang, the V8, boy, the torque off of the turns is just immense.
Yeah, look at the amount of corrections inside the Porsche here of Justin Marks. I mean, look, remember, there's no play in the steering of these cars. It's very direct, the steering, yet he moves it around that much just to keep that car on that knife edge as we go on board now with Derek Bell watching Young and Marks right behind him.
Well, one comment all the drivers have made to a person here is that the track is unusually slick, they feel. Of course, that helps the Audis out. And the Porsches to a degree, because they've got the engine literally overhanging their rear axle. So all that weight, once they get straightened out, gives them good launch. But still, the old foible of that Porsche, truly a rear engine car, is mid-corner centrifugal force in a slick track. It's got to be a little bit of a handful.
Oh yeah, they are always a handful. The old days of the racing 935, they were so fast, but they were animals to drive. Looks good here coming off turn 1. Can he sneak down in the brake zone?
He's giving it a look.
Oh yes,
he does it. And the legendary Porsche brakes, certainly the foible we mentioned, but the brakes are always one of the very strong suits here, and boy, he did that to perfection.
And remember, the Porsches are lighter, particularly than Galati and the Audi, so they are good on these brakes, but you can see now begin to pull about 3 or 4 car lengths away from him, trying to pull himself up behind Derek Bell.
Now you notice on the windshield, the cars that above the driver's name on the windshield that don't have any numbers, they are not carrying additional weight. In fact, some of them may have actually been reduced a little bit in weight, part of that reward system, and it makes a big difference when you start to get up to 50 pounds, 40, 50 pounds, can make a big difference. Now we're on board now with Marks looking back at Young, the driver he just passed, as they work now up into turn 11.
But that pass was made coming off turn 1. It didn't happen until turn 2, but it was actually lined up and the momentum started right at the apex of turn 1.
Young now trying to stay close because obviously he doesn't want to lose touch if he can join Marks as they run up. And Joel Nelson, the Audi, right behind Young. So he is closing up just a little bit. That's a very steep learning curve. That young man driving Formula Palmer Audi and Formula Russell championships over in Europe, testing with those 2 championships, earned him free rides, basically full rides. And the Audi connection is what got him here, as Audi trying to advance some young drivers up through their own advancement program, if you will. So he's doing a great job, and we are early in the going here at Mid-Ohio. Speed GT action. We'll be back.
Enjoying this race? Wish you could be on the track with them? The Sports Car Club of America is the only path to take you from the side.
Watching the Speed Channel, the home of NASCAR.
Welcome back to Mid-Ohio. We are watching a very impressive drive by Bob Miller. It's Walter Swick right in front, just went out of frame. There is Miller. Remember, Miller started dead last from pit lane, and he has already now made his way up to 12th, and he's taking a run at 11th. Down underneath Swick and makes the pass stick. So great pass Tim Wiens now is going to try and get underneath, and yep, he knocked the mirror right off of Swick's car. Wiens did trying to get through. Merrill behind him coming from the very back of the pack, and that's Brad Flowers behind them. So pretty close contact racing here as we go back on board with Greg Merrill.
And when you stick your nose down the inside here, you expect to get squeezed. And the things that stick out on either side are those rear view mirrors, and they disappear every now and then. I just hate to think you break the wings off these expensive racing cars, because I mean, even a slight touch costs a lot to fix these.
Boy, watching right there, Galati got in a little hot, it looked like, to the keyhole. Van Overbeek able to close up once again under the braking, but now Galati with the launch and the grip starts to ease away again. Remember, his car is turboed.
And Greg, that was something that Galati mentioned earlier on. He's going to try and keep the tires under this car because of the weight and the four-wheel drive, and also the Porsche being so much lighter, it can brake later and it is more nimble on the brakes. So Justin Marks flies down the inside of Derek Bell. Ooh, he's over the curb.
Oh, and Young trying to squeeze around the outside, almost made it 3 wide there. Marks up on that inside curb and was lucky to not get into Bell. Yikes. Or if he maybe did just touch him, not get into him any harder than he did.
Oh,
good aggressive move.
Absolutely. Marks took to the curb and bounced over the top of it to try and make sure those cars did not actually hit each other and do a lot more damage. I don't think Derek Bell expected that type of move. Meanwhile, Galati is being pressured now, being pressured by the Flextronics car. That is Van Overbeek, looking very strong here.
Interesting, because you look at Galati and Van Overbeek, then you look at Bell and Marks, and it's the same paint schemes on both of the respective team cars, but this is the lead here. It's Galati chased hard. As we drop back a little bit, there's McMillan in 4th, tells you about the margin the leaders have opened up. There's Petey Cunningham in 5th, and then Marks, Bell, Young, and Joel Nelson rounding out the rest of that lead pack, if you will, at this stage. So we go on board now with Derek Bell, and Young starting to pressure Derek just a little bit.
And then you see Joel Nelson behind. We saw him earlier. To go from single-seater racing cars, formula cars, to these sedans or saloon cars is a huge difference. You do not learn how to drive these things in 1 or 2 race meetings. I remember when Jeff Brabham even went from the turbo Nissan GTP car, a full-bodied car, to drive the BMWs in Australia. It took him almost half a season to get the knack of how to drive these things fast.
By the way, Derek, we're getting a report. You can see it there, smoke from Farmer's car. And I remember he had damage earlier. I don't know whether that's going to be body rub on that tire or if that is something a little bit deeper in, like an engine going away.
Trying to look hard here. I would almost suggest it's something like body rub. A lot of squeal from the tires.
Let's see if we can get a tails away here. Ooh, that looks... Oh, there he is, pouring right out of the middle. Yep. You can see it right there, so he has got some serious problems deep into the engine of the car. Now, if that's puking out any oil, the leader's going to find it here as they get into this first turn. They're going to be relying on workers in the surface flag if there is some oil down. I don't see any.
No, but even if they can't see it, they will smell it. They will smell burning oil, which is an indication and an alarm bell for racing drivers to just be a little bit cautious. Randy Popes on the left side of your screen there, the yellow Porsche. We saw him be so dominant at Lime Rock. He made a big challenge here on Van Overbeek on that early lap, and just has been a little bit quiet ever since.
Popes right now sort of in the throes of a perfect season because he's made 1 start from pole, won it, led the most laps, and he sits now in 3rd, so he's certainly in the hunt. Remember, he is a teammate to Tim Wiens in that 3R program. He's Randy is sponsored by Damon's and First Interstate Inn. And there is Wiens, as we mentioned it, under serious pressure from Merrill. Wiens in that red, white, blue patriotic car, and Merrill, the sort of off-green machine. And Merrill's going to take another run. This is all rookies duking it out. Merrill dives down the inside. Flowers right behind them. In the white Porsche now, these two are actually the Porsche Cup cars. Flowers runs an older machine, actually, but does a very nice job with it, staying fairly close. He's in one of the old 996s. Meanwhile, Merrill, boy, did he get a run and just dusted Wiens. Now Wiens is he gonna counter move? Drafts in, tries to duck underneath.
Oh, come on, come on. Can he squeeze it? No, left-hander.
Boy, very close, and Flowers in that 993 right there. You can see a very distinctly different look to the rear wings and body style in that car.
Greg, tell me this. That had an accident written all over it, and both of those boys backed out. Now look at Flowers now, all over the back of Wiens. Oh, Wiens in trouble. He's in trouble. What happened there?
And he shut the door, and Flowers got very crossed up, and Swick tried to cut underneath, and he had to park it a little bit and almost ended up going onto the grass on the inside of the track.
What happened there? Wiens looked in the brake zone as if he got himself into a bit of trouble, backed off a little bit. Flowers got the run, made an attempt to go down the inside, and then had to back out immediately to avoid the contact.
We'll be back.
Channel. Motorsports will never look the same.
Welcome back to Speed GT action here at Mid-Ohio. There's your top three, no change in position, although it's closed up just a little bit once again, up and over turn 11. Boy, you can see Galati stepping out. Meanwhile, we go back on board our 15th place runner right now, Mark Anderson in that Porsche 928 GTS. Love the sound of that V8.
And for all you 928 fans, and there are many around the country, this is your man. 928 International is his company. Mark drove a long way to bring this car here this weekend. He's never been to Mid-Ohio before. Didn't have a great practice session, had lots of trouble, but he had lots of help also because, believe it or not, 928 supporters drove from across the country to support him here this weekend.
Oh, but a problem here. This is Greg Merrill. Remember, he was in the throes of a huge battle, and he has gone off. That's at the end of that long straight, right in the approach. We're on board with him here, Derek.
Okay, brake zone. Oh yeah, locks up the rears. Locks up the rear brakes straight into the gravel trap, and you are buried and done for the day. Oh yeah, again. You know what, it looked also as if he braked a tiny bit too late because he was actually in the outside of the groove on the marbles, on the slippery stuff before the back finally broke away. That might need a tow truck.
Well, that is certainly what they would call an impact zone if you go off in that corner. It almost looked to me like maybe he was making his down change a little late, and if it wasn't lock up from a down change,
yeah,
possibly as well. Meanwhile, a good battle for second is Popes now starting to put some pressure back on Van Overbeek. And remember, the last time he did this, and these two raced a little bit, Galati got a little bit of a break.
This is a good run here, Greg, for these top three. I mean, Galati cannot break away. He is not able to break away. Now, if we get a full course yellow, who will get the advantage? Maybe Galati, because he gets a chance to let those tires cool off just a little bit, because he's got the heavier car, and he tortures the tires just a little bit more, I believe.
And he also carries that additional weight, the rewards weight on the car, so that is an issue to maybe be considering as well here.
Champion Audi, and they are of course the champions of this GT division. But I'll tell you what, Van Overbeek is not given any room at all here. He's keeping the pressure on here. A better racing line into the keyhole. Galati took more of a defensive line down the inside, which will slow him down.
That's Bob Miller, who has now worked his way up into the 10th spot. So having a good run, and of course, if there is a yellow that comes out, the guys that are back in the order a little bit, that have a lot of track distance between them and the group in front, are going to be able to benefit as well, because they get to make up all that ground without putting any undue stress on the car. And you can see there's nobody in front of Miller right now, so 9th place well up the road. So there are certainly some drivers here. Every time they drive by Merrill over there in that gravel trap, we're thinking, please, why aren't they going yellow? And there are some up front who are going, I'd really rather not.
Yeah, the Rogaine Hair Raising Award might go to him for that pass he made at the end of the straight earlier on, because it was such a daring move.
Now there's Levitas, who is in the 11th spot and is chasing right now Miller. So Miller obviously had a good run. We move up now on board Derek Bell, who has got Young back in that Celine all over him. Still a lot of pressure there. I mentioned Galati carrying some rewards weight. Actually, he's been given a little bit of a break there. He won the opener at Sebring, but since he's been a 5th and a 6th, and that has allowed him to lose a little bit of that rewards weight. But we're full course yellow. We are going full course yellow. So again, that is going to benefit a few people. But as you pointed out, Derek, even though he is not carrying as much rewards weight, he still has the extra weight that he's required to carry, one for running a turbo and one for having that all-wheel drive quattro system as equalizers. But Merrill well and truly buried, and they had no option, I think, but to bring the car out. If somebody got off there, it would have been a real problem that they skate into the gravel and collected that car. So everybody gets to relax a little bit, and Michael Lotti might just be able to save some tires and brakes.
If a car company puts a little sports car in everything it builds, imagine what happens when it builds a sports car.
Zoom, zoom.
Zoom, zoom, zoom.
Welcome back to Mid-Ohio. Lights out in the pace car. We expect to get the green as we start lap 20 here, which would mean 8 to go. Pace car is in. So Galati's going to bring him around. We go on board here with Justin Marks, who accordion things up just a little bit. And look at the jump Petey got going around that lap car. That is the vet of Henry Gilbert. Marks going right with him. McMillan right in front. Now on board with Bell, looking back at Young. And right behind Young is Joel Nelson. Look at Nelson going way wide, trying to get a run here.
And the lap car is in the way, though, will block Joel Nelson. You saw it right there in the brake zone. PD down the inside with squeeze.
He got underneath McMillan, and then Marks and McMillan nudged just a little bit. I don't think McMillan realized Marks was trying to follow PD through, and it loosened Marks up, and Derek Bell goes right on by. I remember Derek Bell at MOSPORT talked about how impressed he was with the young Marks. He was a very young driver, but he thought he had tremendous maturity along with the speed. Good to see respect from one of the true veterans and one of the up-and-comers. There's Marks, then Nelson, then the Celine. So things shuffling just a little bit here.
Yeah, it just shows you when Marks made that contact, he had to back off just for a fraction of a second, and boom, immediately you lose that position.
Well, you've said it before about what a momentum track this is, and you get lost a little bit here and somebody's got the momentum going. It's huge, the effect it can have. Well, it's a great shot back looking there at Marks.
Look at Randy Post. Yeah. Randy Post beginning to force the Flextronics car to take a little bit of a defensive line at times. Meanwhile, the battle for fourth headed by P.D. Cunningham here. And I'm sure Jeff McMillan, because that is such a gorgeous BMW, is wondering to himself, how much damage do I have on that right rear quarter panel?
A little bit concerned about it. Remember earlier in the show, he talked about they were going to go a little bit conservative, perhaps in strategy, just to accrue some points, but the way he shut the door there was anything but conservative. After Petey had gone through, he didn't want to lose another spot, so he sits fifth. Petey Cunningham's fourth, and Pope's closing it up on Van Overbeck. And there's Nelson, who did get around the Celine. And Bob Miller is closing up. Boy, Bob Miller, this could easily be one of the best drives we have seen Miller have. Well, that Rogaine machine.
Considering how far back he came from, remember the pit lane last, he started last, and he comes all the way through, and he has more power here than the Celine Mustang. He has more power. Can he get down the inside in this brake zone? Yes, he can.
He lays on a beautiful
on the 911.
Sorry about that. He lays on a great pass, and now he's going after Joel Nelson and Andrew Marriott. Joel is coming along smartly as well.
Well, a week ago, Joel Nelson was racing at Croft. It's a little circuit in northern Britain, and he was racing in the Formula Palmer Audi Series, where he has been absolutely the standout driver this year. So much so that Champion Audi have now picked up the young man, and they've put him in a third Audi GT car this weekend, and basically it's a very big learning curve. He says the Formula Palmer Audi car, of course, is much more precise, and if you make a little mistake, you can correct it very quickly. In one of these cars, if you make a mistake, it takes a couple of seconds to sort it all out. He's having an absolute ball in this car, though, and he really is impressing the team. And as you can see, he's moving up through the field from his starting position just outside the top 10.
Thanks very much, Andrew. Indeed, he will also be racing at Road America, and then they're going to evaluate whether they'll continue with him in the car, but from what we've seen, it's been a pretty impressive run for the young guy. Meanwhile, there's Michael Lotti leading, and again, Van Overbeck and Popes battling for second. Fourth is Cunningham, fifth is McMillan. And look at this move. Oh, Miller, big loose, goes around, and he forces Young off track as well, but Miller went aggressive, and it got the better of him.
And he was absolutely flying, was Bob Miller, and he just overcooks it, and all the great work that he did suddenly gets lost in a long, lazy spin. Down the inside, Nelson, down the inside. Now watch the rear brakes. Rear brakes lock up right there. Rear brakes lock up. A lazy spin. In fact, he might have got touched by John Young, but he He took John Young off the road with him, and he sits there, looks at his windscreen, and all the cars just go by that he's already passed. What a shame for Bob Miller, who had such a great day, and a good job there by John Young to actually miss him, but he lost a lot of time going across the grass.
That was phenomenally close. Some great driving by Young. We'll be back.
America get out of debt.
We are back status quo at the front here. Galati still in front of Van Overbeek, who continues to see nothing but yellow in his mirrors in the form of Popes. Now we're on board with Derek Bell, and he is going after Cunningham. Now McMillan got back around Cunningham during the break, so obviously McMillan has a little something left, and he's not being that conservative and going that quietly through the carousel. Boy, that's that right-hander that seems to never end. A quick left. Got to carry a lot of speed here, right out to the edge of the track and down the pit straight.
And this next one is turn one. It's a very fast fourth gear corner. You brake and you get on the power just as soon as you can to just accelerate through the apex and down this. It's not a long straight, but it is an important straight. And Justin Marks again begins to close in on Derek Bell.
Boy, while he was doing that, PD was all over McMillan, inside, outside, just trying to find any opening, and McMillan just protected, forced PD to back off and regroup just a little bit. And matter of fact, it's a little bit of a launch out of that keyhole. Now that quick right-hand kink that is absolutely really not even a corner, it's just a bend. Hard on the brakes now, and then into the S's. Right-hander here, and then the climb, and it doesn't really do justice here until you get here. You see it's a very quick climb and then an abrupt drop, right-hander, and you're back into more of the roller coaster ride.
Real-time Racing built two of these Acuras, intended to race two of them this year. However, one at a time is all that has appeared on these racetrack or on the tracks.
But that little bit of a loss of momentum by PD has one allowed McMillan to get away, but Bell now is all over him, and Bell shows the nose.
Oh, he does.
That's that right-hander, now the left into the carousel, and bringing Marks right along with him.
Derek has to be careful, though, because Justin Marks, he knows where Bell's weakness is. He was able to pass him earlier on, so you have to be careful. The mistake then by Marks lost him the positions.
One thing I've been watching, Derek, is Derek Bell's lines. It looks like he's really attempting to late apex that car to get it straightened out and be able to jump on the throttle in the tighter turns. Turn one, you got to flow through, and some of the other ones, but a couple of them, it looks like he's really trying to diamond the corner and then straighten it out.
Look at Justin Marks, too, in the brake zones. He turns right, shows the nose to Derek Bell, then goes back to the left side to get on the brakes to get a fast exit out of this corner here. But I think he's trying to say to D. Bell, I believe I'm a bit faster, so I'm going to put some pressure on you. But Marks is way, way backed off here. Did he miss a gear or something? Look, lost about 5 or 6 car lengths to Derek Bell.
And then he makes 3 up under braking. Those Porsche brakes are just phenomenal. Meanwhile, Bell has really started to apply some heat here as we're on board with Bell. Bottom of the S's. Here's the right-hander now into madness, and he is really putting the heat on P.D. Cunningham.
Into
up and
madness.
over the rise here.
What's the rise called? Just the rise? Turn 11. Saw some trouble there earlier on, but Cunningham still trying to hang on and hold off Derek Bell.
So the battle back in the pack rages as well as the one up front. We'll be back.
With Bowflex.
For Randy Popes, right now, it is all about victory. It is all about the win in the first Interstate in 3R Racing Porsche. And Randy Popes from pole down the front straight and collects the win. Awesome job.
That was one of those weekends where everything just comes together. We took our Porsche from not right to too far the other way to back this way, but smaller steps every time until by qualifying, we had a wonderful handling setup, and Lime Rock's a handling circuit.
Popes in his 3R Racing Porsche got a late start this season, and he understands the title may be a tall order.
We're definitely pursuing the championship, but I did not get the opportunity to drive in this series until the 3rd race. We missed the first 2 altogether. So it's really important to be consistent. We have a strong team here, and we are after the championship, even though it's a tough road to hoe from here out.
I'll tell you, if anybody can do it, though, it is Randy Popes. Just a remarkable talent. What he's done behind the wheel of these Porsches in the last few years in particular, including running the Porsche Cup in support of the USGP at Indianapolis and some of the action in the American Le Mans and Grand Am. Guy is phenomenal.
And if he is in a chase for this championship, he knows that if he doesn't have a car quick enough to win, he needs to be second, or if he can't be second, he needs to be third. He needs to make sure he does have that consistency and score those points, having missed those first two races. Meanwhile, back with Justin Marks. The hard work to pass Derek Bell starts all over again.
This is our battle for fifth, and you can see P.D. Cunningham up front, then Bell. And Bell under braking into the keyhole that time, Derek. Looked like he got a little loose, a little squiggly under braking there, and Marks able to close up just a little bit. That'll certainly give him some motivation, seeing Bell getting a little bit loose like that. Now watching from Bell, looking back. And that's what I was talking about, that different line. He really tends to diamond turn 7, get that Audi straightened, and then just jump on the hammer up to the top of the S's. And
you saw him, Greg, go in there to the right-hander, bottom of the hill, a little bit of understeer. You could see the car did not want to go tight to the apex. He turns the wheel and the front goes straight on.
And PD has opened up maybe a couple of car lengths over that battle, but then it closes up again here. Now that run once again up toward the sequence leading into the carousel. And if you've got a car that's pushing, this carousel just absolutely seems like it goes on even longer than it really does. Meanwhile, Galati up front. There's Van Overbeek and Popes holding station, never letting Galati get more than a couple of car lengths away. Popes even closer still to Van Overbeek, and then the margin back to that battle going on for fourth and McMillan. And there you see Galati. Boy, Van Overbeek actually got in a little wide. He missed the apex there, and Popes all over him.
Three completely different lines there by our first, second, and third place. Michael Galati was very early into the apex. The Flextronics car with Van Overbeek missed it almost completely. And of course then Randy came down the inside and just poked his nose down a little bit.
Oh, look at Bell. Derek Bell has pulled out and gone around the outside of PD, and Marks cuts to the inside. They are trying to make it 3 wide and put PD in a sandwich, and Bell comes across first. On board with Bell, there's Marks, and PD, just that quick, went from 5th to 7th as these two cars split PD under braking for the S's.
How did that happen?
Oh, look at Bell throwing it into the bottom of the S's.
How did they pull that off? P.D. Cunningham must have missed a gear because he was slow down that straight. But Justin Marks, what a brave move he made to go down the inside and then to back off sufficiently to allow Derek Bell to chop across in front of him. Otherwise, those two cars might have gone off the racetrack.
Well, you see now why Derek Bell is impressed with young Justin Marks with making a move like that. Meanwhile, Galati, white flag. This is the final lap for Galati. And there is second spot, Van Overbeek, then Popes. So they exit turn 1. Head up to the keyhole, and then you can see McMillan just flash by into fourth. We're going to give you a look at the interval here, and there you can see that very tight entry into that turn by Galati, the wide entry by Van Overbeek, the middle entry. Then you saw McMillan. Here's Bell now in 5th, Marks in 6th, and look at the margin they've already opened up over P.D. Cunningham. So I wonder if maybe P.D. doesn't have some sort of a problem.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. He has to. Look, they go each side of him. Bell around the outside, Marks down the inside, and Marks might have tried to go down the inside of Derek Bell, but wisely backed out. But P.D. Cunningham must have a mechanical failure because he's beginning to drop back way too quickly now.
Meanwhile, back to the front of the pack as we work through the exit of the S's, Galati, Van Overbeek, and Popes. They are close, but they need to be closer. Galati has just enough here that really there's nowhere now unless they are a lot closer than that. They're going to be able to try anything here, and this is a section of the track where Galati's car excels.
And Greg, he's been under pressure all afternoon long, and Galati has not made a mistake. A driver who has the potential to win a championship must be relatively mistake-free under pressure, as Galati has been this afternoon.
And the checker is out, and Galati carries that mistake-free run to the win. There's McMillan, who will come through with a lonely 4th. but Galati wins it. We'll visit with him when we come back.
Only on Speed Channel. No one gets you closer. The Speed World Challenge is brought to you by Toyo Tires, known for performance tires that fit you.
Well, Michael, going down. Michael, you led from start to finish, but you had to soak up so much pressure.
I tell you, I know they're lighter than us, the Porsche, so I know on the brake do and the fully. And when that yellow flag came out, it was a blessing because my brake pedal was keeping going down and down. So I'm like, we need a brake to really come at the right time. Otherwise, I don't know if I could hold them off.
And did the brakes come back after the yellow?
Yes, they cool off a little bit. You know, being heavy, you know what happens, extra weight doesn't help on it.
I suppose you call this your local track.
Yes, it is. I won a lot of races, a lot of championships over here. I only live 90 miles away. But all the credit goes to the Audi champion. My crew guys, they did a fantastic job up to the disappointing Lime Rock, coming back and be on top, dominating this way. But it was not a walk in the park by any means.
Thanks very much. No walk in the park, says Michael.
And he'd be right. You could tell just the way he was talking. You could hear the energies expelled in his voice. Now let's take a look at the full field rundown and the final results here. And you can see Michael Galati, as we take a look at that, he mentioned that it's all due to the Audi. I would say young Joel Nelson, Derek, would say the same thing.
I think he'll be very pleased with his initial run here. As I mentioned earlier, it is vastly different style of driving to be fast in something with a roof and a tin top on it as it compared to a single-seater car that he is used to. So a good one for Joel Nelson.
And Freddie Baker, listed as a rookie, but very experienced here at Mid-Ohio. Many national championships for him. He ended up 12th. Let's go back down to Andrew Marriott with our second place finisher.
Well, Johannes, you saw the back of that Audi for the whole of the race and just no way to get by.
No, the Flextronics, Brocade, Shoreline, G&W crew did a great job. I really have to hand it to Tommy and Craig Watkins for really busting their hump on this car. It's really good. I think if I got ahead of him, I would have been all right. I could really close him under braking, but coming out of the corners, he would just disappear. And so didn't have anything for him, but luckily we have more races to go.
And you got it off the line well, too.
I did. Thanks for the tip.
The reminder obviously helped. Let's take a look at our current points in the championship after 4 rounds. Now Galati 11 up on P.D. Cunningham. Jeff McMillan, well, he's there in third. Then Johannes van Overbeck with the 4th spot, 23 back, and John Young. Now let's take a look at 6th through 10th. Justin Marks continuing to impress. Derek Bell, David Farmer, Randy Popes now with a win and a third in only 2 outings is up in the top 10. And the young rookie Tim Wiens right there as well. So the points championship is going to be very interesting here. Meanwhile, let's get back down to a very busy Andrew Marriott with our 3rd place finisher, the always fun Randy Popes.
Well, Randy, they say it's very difficult to pass at Mid-Ohio. We just proved it again.
Well, it's great to be back with TR Racing and this great Porsche again. We've got a 1st and a 3rd now in 2 attempts. The car was improved a lot for the race by Will Moody, but Johannes was strong today. I almost got him on the start, got up next to him, but he pulled me down to the 1st corner. So I just tried to make the car survive. It's so hot, my car was sweating. You could see it pouring off the sides. It was good fun. I wish I could have got up there to Galati, and we were just catching him when the yellow came out. Johannes was all over him, and I was just waiting for the bodies to fall, but not today. It was a good race. I got 3rd place out of a good 3R Porsche.
Well done.
I mentioned getting up to Galati. There is good history here with those guys in club racing. Meanwhile, let's take a look at our points in the rookie and manufacturer division. Rookie points, Young leads it by 24 over Wiens, then Culver, Flowers, and Merrill's going to lose ground with his incident in the gravel today. Manufacturers, Porsche up by a whopping 1 point over. Audi 5 back is Acura, then 6 further back is BMW, and 19 back is Celine. So that is very, very close as well. Now, Derek Bell found himself in the midst of a very eventful battle all day long, and it ended up getting him the Rogaine Hair Raising Pass winner award. He's with Andrew.
Derek, guess what? You've won the Rogaine Hair Raising Pass of the day. You've got a full head of hair here, but yeah, a great pass on Cunningham.
Yeah, he was very fair to me. He didn't try and hold me up, but I had to go around the outside, so I knew he was going to make it difficult. But I knew if I could get level with him, I could outdrive him up to the next bit, because he was obviously having trouble with his tyres, if nothing else.
And of course you moved up to 5th place, which was a good finish.
Yes, I never thought I'd get that, but it was worthy, and I'm very pleased for the team. They did a hell of a job. You know, I missed practice on Thursday, so I was a bit behind all weekend, but I came out right in the race.
Hard work for an old man.
Too damn hard for an old man, especially one with no hair.
All right, a great job nonetheless by Derek Bell. He was so busy we didn't get to hear much from him here as he gives us a little plug. We always appreciate that. Next up is going to be Road America, another of the great courses, but a bit different in nature. It'll be fun to see how everything unfolds. For Derek Daly and for Andrew Marriott, I'm Greg Creamer. Thanks so much for joining us here at Mid-Ohio. We'll see you next time from Road America. Take care, everybody.